Good evening, everyone. We're just giving it a moment to let everyone filter into the Zoom meeting. So thank you for your patience. We'll be starting just momentarily. All right, looks like most everyone has entered the meeting that we have waiting. So we'll go ahead and begin. Want to be respectful of all of your time. So good evening. My name is Christina Briggs. I'm an assistant city manager here at the city of Fremont. I'm joined by my colleagues in the economic development department at the city. And we're really pleased to be partnering with the Better Block Foundation on this exciting project in the Mission San Jose district. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're interested to share, what this project is about with all of you, and then most importantly, get your feedback, particularly on this project and on the goals of this project. But before we get into all of that, I'm really honored to introduce our Vice Mayor, Raj Salwan, also representing District 5, where Mission San Jose is. And he's gonna, introduce our meeting and then pass it along to our consultant team to provide the presentation. So with that, I'll hand it to you, Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. I really appreciate everybody for organizing this wonderful meeting. Well, thank you to everybody that has joined us for this project kickoff with Better Block Foundation and our wonderful economic development department team. At the beginning of the year, my colleagues on the City Council and I established our top priorities for 2022. And we identified commercial district vitality as one of the top 3 issues. Other issues are homelessness response and public safety. Throughout this priority of district vitality, our goal is to facilitate projects and programs that will lead to increased commercial activity in these areas and improve overall vibrancy in our Main Street environments, including Mission San Jose. I have been a strong champion for Mission San Jose Town Center and continue to believe in what's possible here. We have some of the greatest assets, such as the Mission, Ohlone College, the museum, and a lot of historic structures and a great backdrop of Mission Peak. And some of the attendees may recall that Mission San Jose commercial study was something that I was keen on doing, and I sponsored that prior to the pandemic. And the study helped the city understand where the best opportunities are to add more commercial activity in the district. And a key finding of that study was that over time, as new investment comes in, Ellsworth Street could present a secondary Main Street experience in parallel with Mission Boulevard, because it has the benefit of being a much more calmer street with less traffic and more neighborhood facing. Better Block is a renowned group for their ability to demonstrate or test opportunities like what we envision for Ellsworth Street. So we could not think of a better partner than Better Block Foundation. And so Better Block Foundation will follow a community-led process for their work, and they want to hear from all of you on your vision for Ellsworth and retail in the larger Mission San Jose district. This community-led vision will culminate with a placemaking event on the weekend of September 9th. And don't worry if you have not heard of these planning terms like placemaking. Better Block will share a presentation with you that will give you a good sense of what we're looking at. As step 1, last month, city staff and Better Block representatives met with the Mission San Jose businesses and met with the property owners. Throughout this outreach, they have identified a section of Ellsworth where they will create a pop-up project to show Ellsworth's potential if the public realm were re-envisioned to create a place for people to gather of all backgrounds and all races and all ages. The goal of tonight's meeting is to add to the feedback we've already gathered and refine our project vision. Thanks to all of you for volunteering your time and energy to this important conversation. Community participation is key, and we want to make sure that all of you are involved, especially our longtime property owners and activists in this area. And we want to make sure that this is a project that is successful for the long term. When we all work together, we are stronger and we can have effective change. I look forward to working with all of you and celebrating in our great event that we'll have in September. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to the Better Block team and our city staff. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you this evening and to talk with you a bit about what a Better Block is and what we will be doing alongside all of you. So my name is Krista Nightingale. I am the Executive Director of the Better Block, which is an urban design nonprofit. I am joined this evening by our Senior Project Manager, Kristen Leiber, and our architectural landscape architect, Tori Peterson, and you will hear from both of them in just a few moments. But first, I'm going to tell you what a Better Block is. So our work started about a decade ago when our founding director, Jason Roberts, walked out onto this street in Dallas, Texas with his neighbors, and they asked, what could we do to make the street better? They wanted to add some cafe seating, they wanted to add flowers, and basically just create a space where people could come together. But they quickly learned that there were ordinances from the 40s that prohibited these things from happening. So it was $1,000 to add sidewalk flowers. It was area times market value times 85% times 12% to add street cafes. And there's an ordinance that said it was illegal for people to gather on a sidewalk. So Jason and his neighbors took a look at this and wondered what it was that they could actually do in their neighborhood. They had heard of this concept called tactical urbanism, which is basically where the community goes out and creates the changes that they want to see. And that's what they decided to do. So for one weekend, they took over their streets. They painted bike lanes with kids paint and duct tape, knowing they could remove it really quickly if they needed to. They rented some old seating, they put out some lights, and they talked to their neighbors in the area who had businesses and ideas for businesses. And they said, hey, there's some empty storefronts along this stretch. What would happen if you all just popped up for the weekend and tested out your ideas? So they brought all of this together. And while they were doing this, they printed out those ordinances that they were breaking and they posted them in the windows, and they invited city staff to come along. And they said, we can't have this kind of neighborhood and this kind of activity because we have these ordinances in place. They weren't sure what city staff was going to say, but the staff said, you know what, you're right. This doesn't actually make a lot of sense. And over time, they worked to lower some of those fees and to change up some of those ordinances. So Jason and his friends did a few more projects, and they open sourced this concept called the Better Block. And that allowed it to spread around the country and around the world. So we are in this old car garage in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas. And it is 1 part office space, 2 parts workshop. We work all around the country alongside neighbors, talking about what is it that you want to see in your neighborhood and how can we bring it to life. This is kind of a typical example of what that might look like, where we're going to look at the streets and wonder and look at whether or not these streets are serving the people or if they're serving pass-through motorists. Are they working in ways that they should for pedestrians and for potentially bicyclists? And most importantly, like, how are they helping out the businesses there in the area? We're also going to talk to those businesses and see what works, what doesn't work, and how are they doing? Are there ways in that we can help engage the sidewalk just a bit more? If there are vacant buildings, are there people in the neighborhood who would like to test out some concepts for a weekend? And then we're also going to work with all of you in the neighborhood and say, what is it that you've been looking for? What's missing in this area? And what parts of this area do you really love? What can we do to kind of highlight some of that and then make some changes to the other spots that you would like to see? And then over the course of just a few days, we will bring it all to life in a pilot demonstration. We do pilots because we find that they erase the fear of permanency, and they allow us to test out some concepts and see whether or not they actually will work in an area. And it also lets city staff take a look at the space and say, does this make sense? Is this something that we would like to make more permanently? Everything that we do, we're asking questions and we're identifying whether or not this is the right approach. One tool we use in the work that we do is digital fabrication. We have an online library of street furniture designs that anyone anywhere can download for free, and it's called WikiBlock. You can download these designs, You can cut them out with a CNC router, which is generally found at a makerspace or a local college, or cabinet makers tend to have them. And then you can build these pieces without any glue, screws, or nails. So the community can build these elements instantly and put them out on the sidewalk and instantly raise the sidewalk's viability. We work in places like Duluth, Minnesota, where we take really cold, harsh environments like this lot on a November day, and we turn it into a warm, inviting space. Basically, our team is here to work on the logistics, the permitting, the licensing, all of that good stuff. But the community brings the heart and soul through the art, the entertainment, and the food. We worked in Canada, creating Toronto's first ever pop-up Vision Zero, where we looked at what would it look like if we extended some of the sidewalk space and we added in a buffered bike lane, and would that make this area a little more visible for pedestrians and for bicyclists. This project was installed in 2019, and in the past year was actually made permanent. We also work in spaces here in our own hometown of Dallas, where we look at a spot like this, which is an area that was experiencing high crime, but had a school right here in the left-hand corner and a lot of apartment buildings over in the right-hand side. A lot of students were walking through this area to and from school. And our task was, how do we make this space safer so the students can get to school and get home? And working alongside the neighbors, this is what we turned this area into. The first thing we looked at was the street, and we addressed, these right-hand turns right here were kind of redundant and also made it less safe for the students as they were crossing through this space. Then we looked at the businesses and we worked with them to update their storefronts with paint and some flowers in this space. And then we looked at this plaza area, and obviously we brought in some color with some paint, but we also created some different elements where folks could hang out and activate the space in their own way. This project was installed in 2019, again, with the idea of trying to reduce crime and seeing what that might look like. Since its installation, there has not been a single violent crime incident in this plaza. We also work in small areas like Quincy, Washington, which is just a couple hours outside of Seattle. And in this one, we took a little bit of a different approach where we looked at the street as a whole. And the neighbors were willing to do something a little dramatic here in this area. We had some really great businesses along either side that were wanting to activate the space and bring more people to this particular street. The street was pretty wide and we had a lot of space to work with, and we ended up turning it into this. Basically, we created a space in the middle of the street for the farmers market and for different things to be happening there in the area. And this is kind of a look at how quickly that happens. Now, while it looks like it only took 3.5 days, the planning for all of this actually took about 117 days beforehand. And then we got on site and we worked with the neighbors to fill in all the pieces. And we'll take you through kind of this design process and what that looks like here in a moment with Tori. But what we like to do is find local elements that really can add to the space. In this particular situation, there were a lot of apple orchards. And so we worked with them to take the apple bins and to create a stage. And then we worked with the school, which had a CNC router, and they cut out a lot of the wiki block elements, which we then used in the space. And then, of course, the community added in the fun, the food, and the art and entertainment. Now, we do this work, as I mentioned, in a temporary basis, but we do see a lot of long-term impact. And a lot of times what we're working for is for change. So we do see that in these projects, we have an increase in community engagement. Basically, the entire 120 days is community engagement. You all are on day 1, technically right now. And so this is kind of the beginning of this whole process. We do see that there are street changes or infrastructure changes as a result of these projects. We do see programs kind of continuing on. We see partnerships continuing on, and we do see positive perception changes and street life changes in the areas. We also talk about how sometimes we build for Instagram because we believe that people deserve spaces that they get to show off and that they want their friends to come to and that they want to be talking about. But ultimately what we're doing is we're building for love and not for fear. So often when we talk about the work that we're doing, people ask us about what if this happens or what if that happens, but we're going to build for the community who's there and not all the what ifs that we can come up with. So we look forward to building alongside all of you and seeing what we can come up with. So I am going to turn it over to Tori to talk just a little bit about what the design process looks like.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tori, and I'm the landscape architect with Better Block. I'm going to go with you guys over a quick brief of what our design process looks like. So if you look on the left, I made this little infographic to show the process that we go through. So because we design from the bottom up, we first, before we design anything, we listen to what the community wants. We ask them a series of questions such as, do you feel safe in the neighborhood? What do you like about your neighborhood now? What does your neighborhood need? And we try our best to gather all this information and use that to fill in the gaps where we can and add whatever the community is really looking for. Mentioned earlier, vitality, commercial development, highlighting interesting elements such as the college and the history. These are all things that play into each design and make it truly unique. So we start with the research. We make sure that we survey and listen to the community. Afterwards, we all get together, and that's when we have this awesome brainstorm when we're sketching, we're looking at Pinterest, we're really deciding what elements that we're trying to bring in and how we can do that in an original and unique way. So after we come up with this design, we sort of mock it up in different ways. So in this slide right here, you see there's a 3D model. This is one of the ways that we mock up the design to show what it's going to look like and some of the elements that are going to be within the site. This was a project that we did. This was a local project in Dallas, the Forest Adelia area. We got a grant for Project Safe Neighborhoods. And it's a way of mitigating crime with ways other than just policing the area. So we did that by bringing in bright colors. We did that by scheduling a lot of programming so people could come in the space and have positive activities that they can enjoy. And down below, you can see how the 3D model is representative of what happened in real life. So that's the delivery. That's the last step to build, where everyone gets to really enjoy the design. And then we get to see how these elements play out because we're temporary, we have the opportunity to try out a lot of things that a permanent process would be difficult to do. So yeah, this is the whole design process that we go through, and we really try to listen to the community and design from the bottom up.
Awesome. Thank you, Tori. All right. So now why you all are here this evening, we will talk more specifically about the project that we're going to be working on with you. And for that, I will turn it over to our senior project manager, Kristen Leiber.
Hi, guys. Kristen Leiber here. Very excited to be working with you all. Like we've talked about before, we've targeted the location of Ellsworth Street near Washington and Ellsworth for the project. I think we've got a really great potential with city and local partners. We've got a great wide street there. There's the desire for it to be a primary commercial corridor between Mission and Ellsworth, with Mission really having that heavy through traffic and Ellsworth being more of a local, like a local feel approach. So we are excited to be there. Like we mentioned, the project is 120 days long, so we're moving quick. That starts with the survey process, which we are opening as of now. There will be a website here in a couple slides. Krista, if you want to go to the next one. I think we've got, so tonight's the survey and kickoff. We have the design open, the survey open for a month. In June, we'll kind of get together, analyze it as a team, give some feedback to the city, say what's permissible with policy and permitting, what's not, where can we try something new, where do we have to work within the existing parameters. So that will be set by early July. We will have leadership meetings with, I hope, some of the members of the community on this call to help us get to the finish line. We have opportunities for block captains who are our leaders, carry the project forward. And really, you are the people guiding and shaping and leading the project. We are just the people doing the nuts and bolts and back, overlaying our urban design experience with your opinions as a resident. So we're really looking for that local leadership. For those of you who don't have quite that much time to give, but would love to join in, we have volunteer workshops on the ground to help paint, build, do all sorts of things. That'll be just the week before the event, which begins the weekend of September 8th and 9th. So I think that's kind of our high level timeline. We're really looking over the next month for your survey, which is a virtual kind of Google form. You can find it at this landing page. This is where the city has put together kind of the hub for any updates on the event. It will feel like an event, but is going to be definitely an exercise in community urban planning. So you guys get to put on your city staff hats for a few weeks, for a few months, and get to try to play around with your space, and we'll see what works. So we're really looking forward to getting your feedback and then going from there. I think there's an opportunity within the survey to also engage with us in other ways. If you are a musician or an artist, or you know someone who is, there's a great small business you love. If you'd like to be a pop-up shop, maybe you have a home-based business you'd like to try out. We have a lot of opportunities there. Maybe you're a nonprofit in the area. Maybe you have a unique talent you haven't shared yet. So please indicate that on the form. I will be reaching out to everyone individually, and just wanted to say how much we're looking forward to working with you. I'll be there every step of the way, and September will be here before you know it. So thank you guys. I think I'm going to open it up for Q&A, but I think there are a few parameters, so I'll let Candace talk about that.
Thanks, Kristen and Krista and Tori, for that overview of the project. Yes, my name is Candace Rankin-Mumby, and I'm an analyst with the City of Fremont. I'll be helping with this project. For the remainder of the meeting until around the end of the hour, we just have Q&A. So we're excited that this is an opportunity for you to ask questions of the Better Block team about the process they just described, and to provide your initial input on this project and how to maximize its success. As a reminder, as Krista mentioned, we have that survey open, which is a really great opportunity to provide feedback as well. So given that we have just about 50 people in this meeting, we're going to be moderating the Q&A just to keep things organized. So you can either put your question in the chat, and I'd be happy to read it out on your behalf. Or if you'd like to raise your hand, I can let you know when we're ready to get to your question. If you're calling in, I believe the function to raise your hand is *9. So just give me a second to get oriented. So we have one question in the chat. Does this project also include planting any trees?
I think that sounds like a fabulous first addition to the survey. So you guys get to tell us what you would like to see. If trees are it, please put it down. We love to include landscaping elements in our designs.
Great. Then we have a hand raised from someone calling in, ending in 365. So I'm going to ask you to unmute and feel free to ask your question.
Hi, this is Alice Cavett. I'm a Mission San Jose District resident. Just wanted to make sure your team was aware that there are 3 housing developments proposed along Ellsworth. Each one of them has mostly housing with a minimal amount of commercial. And because of the parking restrictions, permit restrictions, they can't have restaurants in those 3. The only other restaurants along Ellsworth is a small Bao snack shop, and then a sushi bar that is visible from Mission, but it's not obvious from Ellsworth. Public Works has not put money into sidewalks until there are sidewalks. They just leave it up to developers to do it one at a time. Until there are sidewalks, Ellsworth is not going to be a vital commercial district. And the other thing is the commercial study that was done before said that a municipal or joint parking lot would be great. Well, the parking lot that was behind MacIver's is now part of one of those 3 developments. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of the restrictions. I would love that it worked, but I don't see it working. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I think it was. Thanks so much. Yeah, that's great background. I think we love to find opportunities to exercise the community's thoughts on what should be there. And sometimes that means using a weekend and a temporary nature of our permit to try something that maybe it's not zoned for it, or it's not exactly permitted. And it's just a fun way for us to see, like, let's try something new. Let's see if this could work. And then we get to talk to the city staff about it, given the public feedback. So I wouldn't rule anything out. I think we get to try a lot of stuff on this one.
We got a lot of questions in the chat, which is great. So the next one, the question is worded as, are there ordinances that we are dealing with at the moment? So I think, I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to, but I think maybe if you're referring to just different regulations that the city has in place, I think that's, Kristen, I'd love for you to tag on to this as well. But I think that's part of the reason we're working with the Better Block team and making sure that we're in line with everything that the city needs to happen, but also being creative with seeing what can happen in the space and using it as a model. Do you want to add anything to that, Kristen?
I have not dove. I haven't dove into the policy yet, but we certainly do that as part of our process, especially when going through the permitting to get the event going. So I would say we look with a critical eye, especially we're on the side of the grassroots kind of analysis of this. So we see why can't we do what the community wants? What changes would need to be made? Is there a way to meet in the middle or make some adjustments? So I think certainly we always take a look at that and make sure it's serving everyone the way it should be.
And the next question is about how the temporary ideas that are installed through the project would be able to become permanent.
Yeah, that is one of the leave behinds that Krista kind of talked about. So there will be many leave behinds. They are not going to live forever, but they should get you a few more events for sure. And that's our goal, is to help give you guys something that help create something with you that can be left behind and reused. From there, I bet you guys will find that you want to make some tweaks. And so that's where the longevity kind of comes in. We often see, CDCs form or merchant associations kind of kick back off. We see some people step forward to take ownership of certain elements, whether it's landscaping or, maybe they want to see a recurring pop-up market. So really we're looking, the way this will go on and have legs to be permanent, I believe is with you guys. So I want to encourage you guys to really, really give some good feedback on something you're passionate about with the survey. And we're going to have some great stuff you guys can continue using. I think the city is going to be a great partner here, and we can work towards permanency, however that looks. I know it sounds a little vague right now. Since we're just day one, we're still figuring out what everyone would like to see.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that too. Like Kristen was saying, we're working really closely on the city. So we started out being a little guerrilla in our approach, and but now we work really closely with cities as these projects come together. And I think we've got a great partner here in city staff. And so as we go through this process, we're going to figure out what's really going to work and what you all want to see be made more permanently. And that's something that we will have a lot of conversations around. And then, the biggest leave behind that Kristen was talking about really is kind of the community organization, which I know you all are already organized and doing amazing things. So I'm really just kind of coalescing all of that and giving this little bit of a nudge of this whole project and then seeing what can come long after.
And I'll just add too, I know there's this pre-event survey, but then the Better Block team also has great mechanisms for collecting data at the event itself. And so we'll have that feedback to see, what worked well, what could be tweaked, like they mentioned. So yeah, absolutely. So the next question focuses more on the kind of geography of the project. So what end of the project area is on the south end? So how far down Ellsworth are we looking to go? Are we going all the way to Anza, or do we have an idea of that yet?
Not sure. I know there's a lot going on in Ellsworth. There's a lot of commercial, there's some vacant buildings, there's some sidewalk, there's some not sidewalk, there's residential. So we're gonna be thoughtful about all of that. Not sure how far down we're gonna go, but we certainly want to make sure that the entryway to Washington and Ellsworth is significant and really feels like a kind of a district-wide approach. So I certainly think we'll start there and see how far down we get.
Great. So the next question is asking if this project will take place, if it's a 2-day project.
It is a 2-day event. It is a 120-day project. We'll be doing a lot behind the scenes planning. We'll be having weekly leadership meetings with you guys. We'll be working with city staff fairly frequently. My thought is that this is, this is a block party to get people to come to it, but it's really an exercise in playing with public space. So while it does feel like this is a lot of work for a 2-day event, it's actually the process that's the important part here, and the feedback. And I think really a lot of times people have a hard time visualizing something until it's in 3D, they can look, touch, and feel it. So our goal is to give people that kind of hands-on experience of what could be. And then obviously collect feedback.
The next question is, do we have permission from property owners to utilize their property?
We met with quite a few. I think all the potential property owners we'd be working with have given us a big thumbs up. So it's not formalized yet since we were just starting today, but yeah, we will definitely be getting formal approval from the property owners. I think many of them are very excited about it. And I think we're really going to also focus on using the, public right away. So sidewalks, maybe some of the street.
So the next question is, there's a school nearby. Is there any plan for someplace school or after school activities?
Awesome. I think that's fabulous. I think there's a great potential here to develop some like family-friendly, kid-friendly programming. I know that Montessori school, I believe, is right on that corner, and that's right where we're working. So I would love to see that. I know that around the corner is Mission Coffee and the art gallery too. So I see this being kind of a whole district-wide approach that incorporates who's in the area. And it sounds like there are probably quite a few kids.
Yeah, and to that point, that is a great comment to make in the survey as well. So please fill out the survey. And we also ask a question about, is there anyone that we should reach out to, or, any folks? So if you have specific people that we should be talking to at these different organizations, please, as long as they're okay with it, include their contact information and we'll be reaching out to them.
So the next question asks if this is a one-time event or if it will be permanent after the event. So I think we covered the permanency part a little bit, but maybe if you want to touch on the one-time nature of it.
Yeah, I think it will probably happen this way one time, but the beauty in that is that it can happen again and again and be tweaked. That's what we were talking about. The beauty of temporary is that it is temporary. If you're not stuck with anything, there will be quite a few things left behind that you guys can continue to reactivate. And I think it just takes, a dedicated group of residents who want to see something happen in their neighborhood to really keep things like this going. A lot of times, like Krista showed you, I think on the slide deck, it said 70% of our projects have programming continuation after the event. So we see quite a few residents who kind of carry the torch forward and wanting to keep things going, at least certain elements of the project.
The next question asks, why is Ellsworth Street in need of more commercial when there's a nearly 50% vacancy rate among commercial properties already in the Mission San Jose area?
That's probably a question for zoning, but I will try to answer it because I think there is an adjustment needing to happen in the neighborhood to have a commercial space that's reflective of what everyone wants to see. So it might not look like the commercial of 10 years ago or 5 years ago even, but I think there's something in the changing world we're in, there's something that we can put there that will be new, different. We'll try it out. I think there's an opportunity for some smaller commercial, some more experiential stuff with nightlife and dining and that sort of thing. So I think we get to play with it. I don't think we're limited to kind of what you've seen before here, and we're going to certainly get creative and see what sticks.
I would add, Candace, I don't know about the 50% number. That does feel a little high, but there's a difference in the types of spaces that could be developed on Ellsworth over time, in terms of having something that's more contemporary that could fit the needs of kind of more current tenants. And some of the older buildings do have challenges with attracting tenants, especially restaurants and other types of desirable uses. So just something to keep in mind for this project and moving forward.
Thank you. And the next one is just a comment about what could be imagined in the area. So this person says they can imagine food trucks parked on the unsidewalked area, facing an area marked off from the traffic with potted trees, such as was done at Tumla. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But that's really great feedback. And we love to hear that. And I think, as Kristen said, if you haven't filled out the survey yet, that's also a great thing to put in the survey. So next question, many folks use that area for the great schools around this community. What would be the impact around the area on the schools?
Yeah. You mean in terms of using Ellsworth, I imagine. Our goal is we don't like to shut down streets all the way. We might play with the shape of them, but we really like to keep things moving. We like our events to feel like they could in a functioning city. So we will kind of redistribute space a bit. So if you're talking about driving, I think we won't be shutting down a road. People can get through just fine. And the event itself is Friday evening typically, or Saturday day. We're kind of working all that out, but it shouldn't affect weekday traffic either.
Yeah, and then just in terms of the activities at the event, I think like Kristen had said, we're tailoring this to the community. I think we're already gotten a sense that family friendly will be great. And so that's just something to kind of keep in mind as we go forward as well. So the next one is a comment, kind of similar to that actually, but on the other end, saying that the senior centers that we have are not necessarily near this area. And so this could be an opportunity for a community gathering place for both seniors and children.
Love that.
We had another question talking about the commercial activity on Mission and that versus Ellsworth. So I think we've addressed that. A very technical question about whether Better Block will be responsible for the safety and health, or the city of Fremont will be.
Let's see. We have the insurance for the event, so we're fully covered for volunteers and attendees. The city obviously will work with them, especially if we're in public right of way. And I think it's kind of a joint effort.
And I'll just add that, of course, we will be, very much monitoring any of the public health situation that could be going on at any given time. So that will be, of course, front and center in any of our potential plans to evaluate.
And the last note I'll add on that is that, Better Block are experts in working with cities through these kind of the technical elements. And one of that is the special events permitting process and making sure they have all those necessary details. And benefit of volunteering on this project is that Kristen will be taking care of those technical sides. And so the volunteers are really helping with the more fun vision. So next question. And have you worked in a place previously where there's no sidewalks? A lot of the project area here on Ellsworth doesn't have sidewalks yet. And how would you kind of think about addressing that for the event?
Oh, yes. We worked in all sorts of places. Krista, you talk about this one.
Oh, no, you're fine. I find this to be a really interesting aspect of this project. And I think this is something that there may be a creative way to answer. So I know I sound like a broken record, but please leave your comments about sidewalks in the feedback so that that can be something that we can really start thinking about and figure out, is there a creative way that we can show how to make connections with missing sidewalks in a temporary basis? And then, obviously communicating how important this is and that this is something that needs to be addressed moving forward.
Great. So I'm just, we have a couple of questions that are on a similar note as ones you've addressed. So I'll just kind of go past those ones. Thank you for being patient with me. We have lots of messages, which is great. And just as a, a note, I think I mentioned this before, but if we don't answer your question tonight, or if, you think of a question tomorrow morning, we have contact information on the website, and we're always happy to get in touch with you in the future, or, it might be addressed through the survey. So another question is, have we explored the area within Ohlone College grounds for this type of activity or to engage the community?
As far as the location in the college, no. However, we will be partnering. We have a great call set up this week with the college. I think we're going to be tapping into them in terms of the student body. That's great that we're sort of, there's sort of like an untapped potential over there. There's some possibility of overlap with their makerspace. I know they have a great one. So you'll probably see some college student designed and built pieces at the event. And I think that there's like, there's a whole other, it's like a whole neighbor over there that hasn't really been, I think kind of probably activated since the pandemic. So I think getting these college students out who normally commute in and out and getting them to stick around might bring a really interesting flavor to the event. So I'm really looking forward to partnering with them.
All right, next is an idea to have the Fremont surplus book sale be a pop-up, which I think is a great idea.
Cool.
Okay. Let's see. I have a question. Are you willing to take into consideration design ideas from any citizen or high school students with creative ideas?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. We usually see people kind of their eyes glaze over when we talk about city planning or urban design. So if someone's really interested in that, yes, please come share your thoughts. We love to brainstorm. Please just indicate that in the survey and I'll reach out to you.
Great. And then we have the last comment. Whoops, sorry. It says, this is mostly an Asian neighborhood. If you can recreate themes from Asia, India, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, that you could work with. And then you could also create sections with other types of food, music, open market, and they commented on the sidewalks as well. So that's great. I think good ideas, and we're noting some themes out of here. So I think that's the end of the questions that we have. I'll give everyone a minute to add some more. One thought I had, Kristen, is maybe if you could elaborate a little bit more on what it would be like if someone was interested in volunteering as a block captain and kind of what they could expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, like I said, we kind of have a range of opportunities for the community to get involved. It can be as involved as a block captain, which are kind of 2 or 3 really like navigators of the project. You're going to be there with me on weekly calls. I would say, split between 2 or 3 people. It's probably about 60 hours between now and September. So it's a significant amount, but if you spread it out over that time, it's not insane. If that's too much for you, we have certain opportunities for smaller pieces. Maybe you're really good at social media, or maybe you're really great at putting together vendors, or maybe like an art pop-up or something really specific. I think that would be a great opportunity with a little less time commitment. And then finally, come swing a hammer for a couple hours at one of our build workshops the week of, and beyond that, if you just show up and experience it and give your feedback, that's also participation. So I think we have everything ranging from a few hours to a few dozen hours of your time, just depending on on your capacity.
Great. And then we just had a few clarifications come in about the discussion that we had about, focusing an activity like this on Mission Boulevard versus Ellsworth. And so I think this kind of ties into with something we had earlier about the space on Ohlone. But I'll just kind of take a quick address at it, and then Kristen, if you want to add. But when Kristen came out to visit in March, we kind of looked at a lot of different areas in Mission, and based on their experiences and the initial feedback that we got then, I feel like this type of project really has an impact that will work well on Ellsworth, given the time and the space. So this is just one option. It's meant to be temporary and kind of to test things out. And that's part of this process that's really unique about it. So that's kind of how we landed on Ellsworth for this specific effort.
And I'll just add one thing, Candace, if I may. Part of this project, as well as any of our other work in the Mission San Jose district, is all ultimately really aimed at building the case for greater commercial vibrancy in Mission San Jose broadly, whether that's on Mission Boulevard or Ellsworth or Washington or any of the commercial streets. So, like Candace said, this is one project and one demonstration that we hope, if the community really comes out, if there really does seem to be pent up demand, I'll say, with the population up there, that's a really helpful data point for us to turn around and share with the retail commercial community. So that's really sort of the thought process in this, doing a project like this.
Candace, it's Julie. I think Mr. Robert Tavares is raising his hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie. Let me see. I don't see that in my participants, but if you can unmute yourself, I think feel free to ask your question.
I see you speaking, but you're still muted. Can you unmute? There you go.
Okay. Yes, I just, my main question is Better Block aware that there is a kind of a review of what is envisioned for the historic district of Mission San Jose that was prepared quite a few years ago and is in with the city right now. And I just wondered if they've looked at that booklet for suggestions of what's envisioned for the Mission district.
Is that like the retail study and the primary commercial
Well,
district
this is what we
designation?
did. This is what we did way back, and for the historic overlay district, and it's what we envisioned for the architectural of the buildings and what we saw and what we thought would be good up there. Restaurants. We even talked about a farmers market. Many things that they kind of already suggested that have been tried in one way or another and have not been successful. But so I was just wondering if they have looked at that those guidelines for Mission San Jose.
Awesome. I will. Thanks for alerting me to that. But yeah, I've read the retail study and watched a few council meetings. So I'm aware of some of the background, but not the historical kind of overlay.
Well, it's not the commercial. This is done quite a few years back. And it envisions what they see for the Mission San Jose Village all the way, commercial, retail, the streets, the whole 9 yards. So I just wonder if you looked at that, maybe get some ideas if you look at that, because a lot of effort went into that, and that was all put in by people in the Mission San Jose district and the city of Fremont. That was citizen input, and we came together and we made this booklet, and the city approved it. And it was a big effort at that time. So if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, that would be great.
Cool, thank you. I'll find it, yeah.
Mr. Tavares, one of the recurring themes that we heard when we were out in the community and canvassing, talking to residents and businesses and property owners, was that there is a lot of pent up demand to have a market and to have something that, really brings everyone together from the immediate neighborhood. And we were fortunate to get a fair amount of kind of backstory and history from Jim and Val, and when we spoke with them, and that was really helpful. And I appreciate you giving us a little bit more of that history and direction there.
Well, thank you. Because there was a lot of great ideas already in place. And I just, I think they should be considered because a lot of efforts has been made already to try to revitalize that area. And for whatever reason, things don't work out. I don't know what it is, but it sure would be nice if we can get something, spark some type of new youth in Mission San Jose district.
I think, Candace has touched upon this already, and this is just, it's one initiative, of course, but we think that Better Block has really shown they have a proven model that's worked nationally, and they've even started to take it globally in other countries, and it's a proven model, and it really comes down to having that buy-in from the community. And so we're hoping that some of the images that you saw and some of the discussion has excited you, and ultimately, this will result in you finding ways to participate, whether it's just coming out for Friday or Saturday, or if you're able to volunteer some time and maybe some elbow grease, we'd love to have you and everyone here help us with volunteering.
Well, one last asset that Mission San Jose has. I don't know if the group has heard about the gardens at Palmdale. It's a private park, actually for the public. It's right around the corner, right there on Mission Boulevard. It's a beautiful. It's about 5 acres of nothing but professionally landscaped and trees and ponds and things of that nature. So that's another little jewel that we have there in Mission San Jose. There's a lot of attractions like were brought up, and if those could be utilized in some way in marketing Mission San Jose, that would be great.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that that comment as well. And the last question I see in the chat that hasn't been answered is, will the replay of this meeting be available on the city website? So yes, as I had mentioned, we have a web page dedicated to this on the city website, fremont.gov/betterblock, and we'll add this on there in the next few days. That's also where you can find the survey in addition to the link that I think was previously added in the chat. Yes, thank you, Krista, for dropping the web page down there in the chat. So I think this brings us to the end of our meeting this evening. So I want to thank everybody for joining, for your really engaging comments and questions. I'm excited for what's going to come up in the next 120 days and all the thoughts that will come out from the community. And so if you have any additional questions that we didn't address, or again, like if you think of anything, you can find our contact information on the webpage. You can also please fill out the survey. That's really going to guide, in addition to the comments we heard tonight, the direction that this goes in. And we'd appreciate if you could share that with any friends, colleagues, neighbors in Mission San Jose as well, so we can get as much input as possible. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.